I used to live in a small town that had an old mental hospital just outside the city limits, tucked into the woods, far enough that you had to want to find it. It shut down in the late 90s after a fire, and most of the buildings were left to rot. A couple were torn down, but Building 8 was still standing. People always said it was dangerous, unstable, full of asbestos, but that's not what kept people out. Everyone just avoided it, like it made your skin crawl being near it. I got into urban exploring in college, mostly for the photos. One October, I convinced my roommate Danny to come with me and check out Building 8. It was already getting dark when we got there, which in hindsight was stupid, but the fall air felt sharp and alive. The sky was gray, the leaves wet and sticking to the ground. The whole place smelled like mildew and rust. I remember how quiet it was. No birds, no wind, just us. We climbed through a broken window on the side. Inside, everything was covered in dust and mold. You could still see remnants of the hospital. Old gurneys, wheelchairs with missing wheels, clipboards with faded forms. We were mostly just taking pictures, walking slowly through the halls. Then we found the door. It was at the end of a hallway that was almost entirely collapsed. The only reason we noticed it was because the rest of the ceiling had caved in, and the door was untouched, completely clean. No graffiti, no rust. Just a perfectly normal white door with a brass knob. It was locked, not chained, not nailed shut. Just locked, like someone had gone in and closed it behind them. We both felt it immediately, that thick, humming tension in the air. I wish I had walked away, but I wanted to know what was behind it. Danny tried to kick it open. Nothing. Solid as a rock. I thought maybe we could come back later with bolt cutters or something, but as we turned to leave, we heard it. 3 knocks, from the other side. We both froze. They weren't loud, just tap, 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 evenly spaced. My stomach dropped. Danny laughed nervously. Probably just some pipe settling or whatever, he said. But I saw the way his hands were shaking. Then, we heard it again. Tap, 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 exactly the same. We didn't run. I wish we had. Instead, we just stood there like idiots, waiting for something to happen. And then the doorknob started to turn. Very slowly. Clockwise, then counterclockwise, like someone was trying it, but couldn't open it, or didn't want to open it all the way. I whispered, "Danny," but he was already backing away. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "There's no doorknob on this side." He was right. I turned and looked again. The door had no knob on our side, just a smooth white panel. I swear to you, I remembered a knob. I saw it when we first found the door. I remember the brass color. Danny turned and bolted down the hall. I didn't even think. I ran after him, through the maze of damp corridors and decaying rooms. We didn't stop until we were outside again, panting, cold, shaking. We never went back. But here's the part that still messes with me. A few weeks later, I was going through the photos on my camera from that night. Most were blurry, low light, fast movements. But one was clear. It was the door. Except in the photo, there was no hallway. Just the door. Standing in the middle of a black frame, like it had been cut and pasted into the shot. No debris, no floor, nothing. And this time, there was a knob on it. I've shown it to people. Some think it's edited. Some say it's a trick of the lighting. But I know what we saw. I know what we heard. I still think about what might have happened if we'd waited a little longer, if that door had opened. I was 19 when I worked the night shift at a roadside motel off Route 50. It was one of those cheap places with flickering neon signs and cigarette burns on the sheets. Half the rooms were rented out long-term by people down on their luck. Truckers, addicts, the occasional runaway. I didn't mind the job. It was quiet, mostly. Paid under the table. Room 103 was at the far end, near the back lot. It wasn't part of the regular rotation. The manager, Frank, told me not to rent it out. Plumbing issues, he said. But he never called a plumber. Never cleaned it. Just kept the key on a separate hook. One night, during a bad thunderstorm, a woman came in, mid-30s, soaked through, no luggage. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Said she just needed a place for the night and had cash. I told her we were full, but she pointed toward the keys and said, "What about that one?" She meant 103. I started to say it wasn't available, but she interrupted. "Please," she said. "Just for a few hours. I won't touch anything." I should have said no, but something about the desperation in her voice got to me. So I gave her the key to 103 and took 50 in cash. I even offered her a towel, but she just took the key and walked into the rain. She never came back out. About an hour later, I walked down to check on the room. I told myself it was just to see if she needed anything. But really, I felt uneasy. The rain had stopped, and everything was dead quiet. When I got to 103, the door was closed. No light under it. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. I reached for the knob, and found it was locked from the inside. That was the first moment I felt something was wrong. Back at the front desk, I sat there staring at the security feed. The screen showed the hallway outside the rooms. I rewound the tape. She walked in. She unlocked 103. The door closed behind her. Then, nothing. No one came out. No shadows. No movement. Just a still, empty hall. I let it go, chalked it up to exhaustion, and told myself she probably just went to sleep. The next morning, the cleaning lady Rosa came in, and I warned her not to bother with 103. She looked surprised. "It's open," she said. That didn't make sense. I went with her. The door to 103 was wide open. The bed was made. The sink was dry. The floor was dusty, like it hadn't been used in months. No towel, no trash, no signs of anyone having been there at all. Even the key I gave her was back on the hook. I checked the tape again. This time, the part where she entered the room was gone, like it had been erased. Just static for about a minute, then a jump cut to an empty hallway. I asked Frank if anyone had ever stayed in 103. He gave me a weird look and said, "Nobody stays in that room, not since the incident." "What incident?" I asked. He hesitated, then said, "Back when I took over, we had a tenant in 103. Woman, pretty. Stayed for a few weeks, paid in cash. One morning, she just disappeared. No checkout, no note, nothing. Her car was gone, but she left her stuff, clothes, purse, ID. Cops came. Never found her." I felt cold. "When was that?" He looked me dead in the eyes. 1998. That was 17 years ago. I went home that morning, and slept maybe 2 hours. I kept thinking about the woman who walked in. Her pale skin, the shadows under her eyes, the way she didn't care about the towel. How calm she was, like she knew that room. I kept working there another month, but I never gave out the key to 103 again. Still, every few nights, just after midnight, I'd catch something on the corner monitor. Just for a second. A blur of movement outside that door. Like someone slipping inside, and the static, always starting at exactly 12:03 a.m., just for a minute, then gone. I once stayed past my shift, hiding in the laundry room with a view of that hallway. I wanted to prove it to myself. At 12:03, the screen flickered. I held my breath. And then the door creaked open, just an inch. Then slowly closed again. No footsteps. No light. Just that slow, quiet movement. Like someone still had the key. I never told anyone. What would I even say? Sometimes, late at night, I think about her. The woman who showed up drenched in rain, asking for a room she shouldn't have known about. I wonder if she ever really left, or if she was ever real at all. Frank sold the place a year later. They knocked most of it down and built a gas station, but I still can't drive past that stretch of Route 50 without glancing at the back corner, where 103 used to be. And sometimes, when I do, I swear I see someone standing there, just watching. I moved into my first apartment alone when I was 24. It was in an old brick building downtown. 5 floors, no elevator, cracked walls, cheap rent. The kind of place where the hallway lights flickered and the paint peeled in the corners. But it was mine. A 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor, quiet, safe enough. The stairwell was strange, though. There were 2 of them, one at each end of the building. The front stairwell by the lobby was open and lit. Everyone used it. But the back stairwell was different. Narrow, dark, with a weird, sour smell. It always felt cold, no matter the weather. The light at the top never worked, and no one ever went in there. I assumed it was just for emergencies or maintenance. I only noticed it because my window faced it. If I leaned out and looked across the alley, I could see the stairwell landing on every floor. Dirty concrete steps and rusted railings behind. Old, wire-reinforced glass. I started seeing a light in there at night. It would flick on for a few minutes, then go dark. Always between 1 and 2 a.m. At first, I thought it was a sensor light, maybe a janitor or a late-night tenant using it. But I never heard any footsteps. No doors. Nothing. I asked my neighbor, Jordan, about it once while we were both checking our mail. He gave me a look and said, "You use that back stairwell?" "No." "Good. Don't." He didn't explain. Just turned and walked off. One night I couldn't sleep. It was just after 1 a.m. when I saw the light flicker on again across the alley. The landing on the 3rd floor. My floor. I watched, waiting to see someone come down the stairs or open the door. Instead, I saw someone standing perfectly still. On the landing, no movement. Just a shape in the middle of the stairwell, like they were staring at the door. I watched for 5 minutes. They didn't move once. Then the light clicked off, and the window went black. The next morning, I checked. The door to the back stairwell. It was locked. Old bolt, chain on the inside, padlock on the outside. No one could have used it without unlocking it from both sides. I even asked the building super about it. He said the stairwell was sealed off because of structural concerns. When I told him I saw someone in there, he just shook his head. "You didn't," he said. A week later, I came home from work and found a note slipped under my door. No name. Just a torn scrap of paper with one sentence written in shaky handwriting. "Don't let them knock twice." I stared at it for a long time. I thought about throwing it away, but I kept it, taped it inside a drawer. I told myself it was probably a prank. Maybe Jordan trying to mess with me. But that night, I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks. Not from my front door, from the back wall, the wall that connected to the stairwell. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. The knocking came again. 3 taps, evenly spaced. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then it stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I checked the stairwell door again. Still locked. I told myself it had to be pipes or heat expanding. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I could feel it. It had been deliberate. A few nights later, it happened again. This time, I made a mistake. I got up and walked to the back wall. I stood there, in the dark, listening. Nothing. Then, 3 more knocks, right at ear level. I don't know what possessed me, but I knocked back. Just once. Silence. Then, 3 rapid knocks in response. Louder. Closer. I backed away and locked myself in my bedroom. That was the last night I stayed in that apartment. I moved out the following week, breaking my lease and losing my deposit. I didn't care. I couldn't take it anymore. I started sleeping at my sister's place until I found somewhere else. I told people it was the noisy pipes, bad insulation, weird vibes. I never mentioned the stairwell. 2 months later, I got a call from Jordan. He sounded shaken. He told me the guy who moved into my old unit had called the cops the night before. Said someone was banging on his back wall for over an hour. When the cops showed up, they found the back stairwell door wide open. No sign of forced entry. Just unlocked, chain undone, padlock missing. The weird part? The guy swore he only opened the door after he heard 2 knocks. I never called him back. I didn't want to know what happened after that. Sometimes, late at night, I'll dream about that stairwell. I'll see it from across the alley, the light flickering on, the figure standing still on the landing. And sometimes, I'll hear knocking, in the distance. 3 slow knocks, then silence, then another knock, just one, waiting for me to answer.